Hello everyone. In today's topic, we'll discuss the development of anthropology in detail. We'll see how the discipline has evolved over the period of time. Anthropology is the study of human and human cultures. Since ancient times, many scholars and thinkers have documented and studied extensively on human cultures and human societies. We'll discuss some of the prominent ones. The first one is Zhang Xiang. He lived around 2nd century BC. For almost 25 years, he traveled and collected information about different cultures in Central Asia. This information or knowledge was used by his emperor to establish connections and trade relations with their neighbors. Also, he is credited to find some of the important routes in the Silk trade, and he is also credited for introducing new cultural ideas, including Buddhism, in Chinese culture. The next prominent thinker is Herodotus. He lived around 4th century BC. He is well known for his writings on human nature and society, whose concepts became central to anthropology later. The next is Ibn Battuta. He lived around 14th century BC, who is a Moroccan scholar. He traveled almost for 30 years, covering almost the whole of the Islamic world, including parts of Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa, India, and China. So he has written a travelogue, which is also known as Al-Rihal, which gives descriptive account of people. The time period from 1400 to the 1700s is also known as the Age of Discovery. During this period, Europeans began to explore the world and then started colonizing it. They started exploiting natural resources and human labors in other parts of the world, exerting social and political control over the people they encountered. This also gave rise to the imperialism. During this period of 1400s to 1700s, the European empires expanded vastly. So there arose a new way of understanding the world and its people. So for this, anthropological societies were formed by these European countries. Also, these European countries used ethnocentrism to justify their subjugation of the other non-European countries, and they considered the other non-European countries as both biologically and socially inferior. To note, even the anthropological practices of that time were ethnocentric and often supported colonial projects. So this period is also known as colonial anthropology. Next, the age of enlightenment. So this period is between 17th and 18th century. Age of enlightenment means it was a social and philosophical movement that happened in the European countries that privileged science, rationality, and experience while criticizing the religious authorities. This is very crucial period for intellectual development, and this period planted the seeds for many academic disciplines, including anthropology. Let's see some of the developments that happened after the age of enlightenment. During the medieval period, the concepts such as the evolution of Earth or the evolution of humans were mainly based on the biblical information or the information given in the Bible. But during the age of reasoning or the age of enlightenment, many thinkers started questioning the information given in the Bible. For example, Sir Charles Lyell. He argued that the evolution of Earth was very gradual and it took very long period for its evolution, which was disputed against the Younger theory, which was very famous during that time based on the biblical information, which stated that the origin of Earth was only 6,000 years old. Similarly, another famous a naturalist, a biologist, as well as a geologist, Sir Charles Darwin, he proponed the theory of evolution. After observing the fossils and the living specimens for a long period of time, he argued that all life is descended from a common ancestor. Next, John Locke. He contemplated on the origin of the society itself. He argued that historically people lived in relative isolations until they agreed to form a society in which the government would protect their personal property. The radical ideas about the earth evolution and the society given by Charles Darwin or John Locke has greatly influenced the social scientists of the early 19th century. They started proposing the evolution of society and theories based on that. And this is called social evolution. How societies and culture change over time. Herbert Spencer, he used the biological evolution model to understand social evolution. He stated that just like how organisms develop from simple to complex organisms, similarly, society also progressed from very simple societies to complex ones. Next, Louis Henry Morgan. His idea of social evolution was that all societies progressed through the same stages of development, that is, savagery, barbarism, and civilization. Savagery means societies that used stone tools. This societies were classified into these stages based on their family structure, technology that was used during that time, and methods of acquiring food. During the 20th century, the beginning of the modern anthropology started. Till now, anthropology as a discipline was not formalized. Also, during this period, the ethnocentric views, for example, the ideas like Morgan, were challenged by the anthropologists in the early 20th century in both Europe and in the United States. Also, many new methods were added to the discipline. Let's discuss about them. Malinowski, he is credited for the introduction of participant observation fieldwork in anthropology. Actually, Malinowski case is very interesting. He was on his way to Australia, but due to the outbreak of World War I, he got stranded in the Trobriand Island, located north of Australia and Papua New Guinea. So there, he conducted this participant observation fieldwork. By living with the Trobriand Islanders, he realized that their culture was not savage, but that was well suited to fulfill the needs of the people. After understanding this, he developed a theory which is known as functionalism to explain human cultural diversity. According to him, each culture functions to satisfy the specific biological and psychological needs of its people. Franz Boas, he belongs to the US. He also lived at the same time as of Malinowski. He is credited for introducing the concept of cultural relativism in anthropology. It is a view that while cultures differ among human societies, they are not better or worse than one another. He is also a critic of ethnocentric views given by earlier anthropologists like Henry Morgan. He stated that physical and behavioral differences among racial and ethnic groups were shaped by environmental and social conditions and not by biology. That is, social conditions and behavioral conditions are not innate. Further, Boyas is credited for making anthropology as a more formal discipline. He worked to transform anthropology into a professional and empirical academic discipline that later integrated four subfields, namely archaeology, cultural anthropology, biological anthropology, and linguistic anthropology. Applied anthropology, which can be also stated as the fifth subfield of anthropology. Later, Boya students, including Margaret Mead and Ruth Benedict, contributed significantly to the discipline. After Boyas and Malinowski's contribution to anthropology, anthropology has expanded its scope to investigate various aspects of humans, and they have proposed many theories. Let's see each of them in a very brief manner. Structuralism, introduced by Claude Lévi-Strauss in the 1950s, it explored the basic structures of the mind underlying cultural patterns. It analyzed common cultural elements like myth, ritual, and language. Next, cultural materialism and ecology. In the 1960s, cultural materialism and ecology emerged. It studied the relationship between culture, technology, and the environment. Cultural materialism was credited to Marvin Harris. He explored how cultural practices responded to the economic and ecological factors. In the 1970s, anthropology has widened its scope to study the symbolisms. For example, Clifford Geertz and Victor Turner shifted the focus to the meanings of cultural symbols and rituals, which is known as symbolic anthropology. They explored the significance of specific symbols in understanding the entire culture. So they used symbols to understand culture in a much better way. In the 21st century, anthropology has widened its scope to study various aspects of human culture, human activities, etc. For example, anthropologists are more interested in studying globalization and its impact on human societies and social institutions. Next, urban anthropology. They are also interested in studying the urban communities. It includes various topics ranging from immigration, poverty, class, ethnicity, drugs, and also urban violence. For example, they also study how stress, caste based on debt and inequality is leading to drug abuse or sexual trafficking, etc. Next, environmental anthropology. It studies how cultural choices impact sustainability or environment and vice versa. For example, I could state culture of consumerism in the West. This culture leads to more production, thereby emphasizing more stress on the land. This in turn impacts the environment. So these aspects are being studied by environmental anthropologists, and the most recent one is digital anthropology. Here anthropologists are interested in studying how people interact with and use digital technology, or how it affects their behavior and culture, or how it shapes their perceptions of the world, or how a behavior in digital world is getting transmitted into the real world. We have completed the topic development of anthropology in today's class. In the next coming class, we'll also see how anthropology as a discipline is related to other fields such as social sciences or the health sciences, etc. Till then, goodbye. Thank you so much.